In the last lesson we looked at the manufacture of ethanol through the reaction of ethene with steam. In this lesson we're going to look at the process of fermentation. Now fermentation involves converting glucose, which is naturally present in fruits such as grapes or apples, and also in the case of barley, which is used to make beer, barley grain. Then that glucose is converted into ethanol by bacteria which are present in the skin of the fruit called yeast, and these act as a kind of natural catalyst which enables this conversion. Now we're not going to go into any equations here, but we're going to say that this takes place at around about 30 degrees Celsius, and that if we're looking for obtaining ethanol for some industrial purpose, let's say actually not for drinking wine, cider or beer, then in that sense we're going to get quite a low concentration. This is going to produce a low concentration of ethanol. That's to say the ethanol in these cases is going to be mixed with water and other substances, and so to obtain a higher concentration we're going to employ a process called distillation. Now the type of distillation that would be used here in this process can be represented by this diagram, although industrial distilleries will be somewhat more complicated than this, but in essence they are the same. So you're going to have first of all the initial mixture of ethanol and water. Now this has come from the fermentation process. And in the type of distillation that is going to take place here, we're not going to completely separate these two liquids. What will tend to happen is that the liquid with the lower boiling point will evaporate first, but there will be evaporation of the higher boiling point liquid as well. Their boiling points are quite close together relatively, so both will tend to pass through the apparatus and will be collected here in the flask, but the concentration of the ethanol will be higher because it has the lower boiling point. So you're going to get a higher concentration of ethanol. Now I should have said before that basically what's going on then is that you heat the mixture, they evaporate, the lower boiling point liquid will tend to evaporate first. That will pass down through a condenser unit which has a continual supply of cold water, which will cause the vaporous ethanol to convert back into a liquid, and that will be collected in the flask. Just re-emphasizing that this apparatus isn't sophisticated enough really to stop the water coming down through here as well. So you're going to get both water and ethanol evaporating and condensing and passing into the flask, but you get a higher concentration of ethanol. Now if you want to improve that concentration, then you have to repeat that process again and pass this liquid through a distillation process. So the problem with using fermentation for obtaining ethanol is that you've got a low concentration. You're going to have ethanol mixed with water, and you can only really increase that concentration through the process of distillation, which involves time and manpower in order to obtain a reasonable concentration. The advantage obviously over this technique compared with the previous technique, which was the reaction of ethene with steam, is that the equipment involved here is a lot cheaper. But then you also have the problem of not getting pure ethanol from the process, and that the process takes time and involves therefore higher labor costs. So in the next lesson we'll briefly summarize the differences between the two processes. Being able to compare between the two is important for your GCSE exam, so I recommend that you watch that video.